Earlier on tonight, Mr. Ruddock brought up the example of the Good Samaritan, and as we read the Bible, we get a clear picture that for those who follow Jesus, there is a call to welcome the stranger. So in light of that, what should an authentic Christian response to asylum seekers and refugees look like, and how can this play out in policy?
Michael Jensen.
Well, I prefer the word grace to compassion because it's distinctively Christian, and it comes from the cross, right? In the cross, which should drive everything we think about as Christians, we see that God makes space for even for his enemies, for people who are not like him, for people who are in fact his enemies, as we all are. And so, as Christians, I think we've grasped grace. We know that what we have we don't deserve. And so that should really permeate our discussion here. Not a question of kind of maintaining what we have or a kind of defensiveness. There should be an openness. The second thing I think for Christians is to get busy on the ground and to do what I know many Christians do, visiting refugees, welcoming refugees and asylum seekers into their own homes, providing them with things they don't have. It's extraordinary the kind of quiet grace that is distributed amongst the community. If you just care to dig and look a little bit, it's extraordinary what Christians people are doing, and a marked contrast from the situation of the treatment of Christians in Iraq to the treatment of many Muslims in Australia by Christians, I think, and we ought to keep doing that. Then I think the third thing is, of course, we need to be in conversation with our politicians. I'm the first to say that this whole situation is complicated and fraught, and policy is difficult, and we ought to be in prayer for our politicians as they do this. That's one of the chief things we ought to do as Christians, and letting our politicians know that we're praying for them as well. But also saying, look guys, grace ought to inform this discussion, and especially, can we have a better conversation about this in the community? That's what really appalls me, really, is at one level, it's the way we're talking about other human beings and their lives and their who they are is quite frightening, and I don't like what I see in the Australian soul when I hear that conversation going on. It's not just the internet, but generally.
Greg Lake, you're a man of faith as well as a man of practice in this area, and you've been a part of creating policy in a prior life on a couple of different occasions. So how does your faith intersect with policy creation, and what can we learn from the outside in learning to connect with the policymakers in a useful way?
Look, one of the challenges that I've found working within the public service and developing advice from both an operational experience or operational experiences that I had, and also working in policy development areas in the department, was an ability to actually influence policy from within that position is only so great, especially as a Christian, where those policy statements by government at the time, the Labor government, around deterrence and the way that people arriving by boat are treated, came in direct conflict with that faith of mine. That Jesus that Michael speaks of died for people made in God's image and inherently valuable to God. What that means for me is when I'm on Christmas Island for the boat crash in 2010, I'm mindful that the 50 people dying are people that God deeply cares about. And so a policy which says we should just welcome people with open arms, whether they arrive by boat or not, if that creates an incentive to get on a boat, is a deficient policy. But equally so is a policy which uses human life as a deterrence to say it's better for you to be back where you came from, where you're fleeing from, than coming to here because of the conditions we'll subject you to. I won't admit, or I won't suggest that this is easy. But I do, look, I don't think Christians are all going to vote the same way at the end of a discussion like this. I don't think Christians should. I think we've got brains and we can disagree, and that's appropriate about things. And I think there are Christians across all political persuasions who can at least align behind those ideas that humans matter. And until we're presented with a political and a policy solution to this, which acknowledges that on every level, we can be dissatisfied.